Hi, everybody. I am Nadia Cumberbatch. I'm one of your presenters today, and my colleague is.
Hi, I'm Margaret Woodruff, and I am the director of the Charlotte Library, and happy to be here with Nardia to help you learn something about green jobs. So Nardia, thanks for letting me be part of this project with you. I've really learned a lot as we've gone on, and uh, we move to the next slide. I can tell everybody a little bit about what we'll be doing today. So we're going to be talking about what exactly a green job is. I think we all have some idea of that, but when I was doing some research for this, I was amazed at the breadth of what that really means. And the ongoing demand for green jobs. I just learned about some new initiatives today, so that was exciting. Brainstorm how libraries of all kinds can help people that come into their buildings and access their resources, get more information, and then review micro programming options to help people get started. So next slide. So what are green jobs? As this slide here says, it's either businesses that produce goods or services that benefit or conserve natural resources, or jobs which make the processes that are already in place more environmentally friendly or use fewer resources. And I was interested to note also that the UN Environmental Program said that it is also, in addition to sort of mitigating economic challenges, also to promote economic growth. And I think that's a really important thing to emphasize as well. So I think we've all seen solar panels and perhaps even wind turbines around and about. Um, and so I think generally we're aware that green jobs are a thing and that green careers are on the rise. But just looking at the statistics on this slide, I think it's really startling to me how big a growth there has been. And I think the other thing is how much that growth is going to continue into the future. Next slide. So this is a great opportunity for people who are looking for work, people who are looking to change their work, for students who are wanting to explore possibilities for themselves. And I think one of the things that is so attractive is that there is, good money to be made. It is a growing industry. There's demand, and so I think people can find some good opportunities there as well. And these slides sort of lay out very clearly the different kinds of opportunities that are available, and also the types of education that you need. That I think is important because people come at all opportunities from different places and bring different skill sets and different interests. So some people might be interested in pursuing, college or even a master's degree, and others are more interested in a technical school and, getting some hands-on skills to get started. Next slide. So again, just further demonstrating from, as I mentioned before, the range of careers that are available to people. I did not know, for instance, that epidemiology would be considered a green career, but having read a little bit more about it, I realized, of course, that makes sense. So I love the breadth, the umbrella under which sort of green careers can be considered. And again, that people from all walks of life and all interests can be sort of working, as the UN environmental program said, to mitigate environmental challenges and promote economic growth.
And we talked a lot about the rise of green jobs, and we're going to focus a little bit. One of the things that I wanted to ask you is, what do you think about when you think about green jobs? We've displayed some of them, but I want you to think about that in your mind as we're going through this presentation. A lot of the time what comes to people's minds is they think about wind turbines, electric vehicles. Those are part of it, but we want to showcase some of the things from Career One Stop, which is a U.S. Department of Labor resource. It showcases 12 different sectors and shows how everyday jobs can become green. So for example, if you're looking at this list, they're talking about agriculture, forestry, and increasing greening those careers. They're talking about creating new jobs within those fields. So for example, if you think about construction and manufacturing, you might not think about the sustainability aspects that are being introduced into those industries. But this list underscores that green jobs aren't a niche industry. They're not brand new. They're already integrated into our economy, and librarians can help our communities understand these diverse different types of jobs that they might encounter. So for example, if we dig a little bit deeper in one of the 12 and we look at green construction jobs, the common misconception is that you might need an advanced degree for any of the jobs that we've been talking about today, because we had mentioned before the bachelor's and a bachelor's degree. But this slide showcases within construction jobs that only need a high school diploma to get started. For example, with the rise of solar energy and energy efficient systems, someone who's an electrician might be installing or maintaining those systems. So there might be a high demand depending on what your region is investing in. When it comes to trades like plumbing, it might be installing again. So there might be advanced water heating systems or energy systems to help in those green buildings. So those LEED certified buildings or any of those things. You might be like in Florida where we use water to help cool our actual energy system. So those are some things that people might think about. These jobs also provide good wages. So we are not just talking about green jobs, but jobs that provide economic benefits for the community. So a library might be helping their job seekers either find the information, basic information like how much you get paid, what kind of certifications that you'll need, and we'll discuss more of how libraries can specifically help their patrons a little bit later. So now that we've talked about the growth of green jobs, we wanted to look at the larger trend. We're going to look at the International Renewable Energy Agency and how it's tracking explosion specifically for renewable energy jobs. In the data, they showcase that the world saw the highest rise ever in annual wages for energy jobs with the 18% surge. This brought the total workers in that industry to over 16 million globally. There were 5 nations that were identified with the most renewable energy sections. China had the largest, with over 7 million jobs, followed by the European Union with 2 million jobs. Next, Brazil with 1.5 million, and the US and India tied for the 4th and 5th place with 1 million new jobs in that industry. This emphasizes that it's not a small matter, some of these jobs. It can be a huge impact on your workforce. So there is a shift in creating different kinds of jobs, not necessarily new jobs. And one of the big factors that the report showed is the continued need to reskill employees to transition to green jobs. So as librarians, finding that information is crucial for our community. It can help us to increase job opportunities by showing them what is available locally, helping them access those skills by making connections with partners, and helping them to get that training. So the training might involve soft skills or it might involve in-depth skills, depending on what your library system does. So now that we've provided you with a list of different kinds of resources, we wanted you to think about how your libraries can provide resources. So this might be providing supportive spaces because our libraries are a place of trust within our community. So not only are you introducing them to the green jobs, you're providing a safe space where they can learn about this new information. Our libraries provide databases and industry-specific services, whether that's a study aid, you might have career licensing books, different things like that that libraries can acquire to help their patrons. The other thing that we want to think about is that we're going to switch gears a little bit to help you explore your local resources. So we're going to go into a brief discussion to help you brainstorm. Yes, we're going to provide some concrete information, but we wanted to help you brainstorm ahead of time. So we wanted you to think about different ways that you can partner with either resources that you already have, local resources, or agencies that you can partner with, and we're going to help you get started with that brainstorming. So we are going to do an activity. So let's get started. Sorry about that. All right, so let's brainstorm. So the first thing I'm going to ask everybody to do is if you can pull out a sheet of paper. This can be your notebook, so your notes app. You can jot notes down in your notes app. If you're on your computer, you can open up a Word document to jot down your notes. And I'm just going to give you a few seconds to do that. Does anybody need more time to open their notes app or a Word document to jot down their ideas? All right. So for those of you listening to the recording, I'm going to ask you to, sorry about that. We're going to do a minute reflection. So I am going to put down the timer so that we can count down. I want you to brainstorm 1 to 2 initiatives that your library could implement to prepare your local workforce for these in-demand jobs. This might be thinking about partners, resources that you already have, and I'm going to give you a minute to think about that and jot that down. So thank you, everybody. I hope you had the opportunity to jot down your ideas. And if you're comfortable sharing, if you can please share what type of library. So are you special library, academic library, public library, school librarian? Let us know the state that you're in, because that does change the information you have, and at least one of the initiatives that you brainstorm. We're going to share our own list in a minute, but we wanted to get your ideas first. So I see the chat. Give me a moment. All right. So we've got the Clinton Essex Franklin Library System in Plattsburgh, New York. I am so sorry. They are currently working on the certification, and they are thinking about doing collection development. So wonderful. And they also shared doing a workshop with a partner. We've got a public library in Wisconsin who is going to create a guide. Sorry about that. Create a guide for the local college programs in the fields that have green jobs. Pretty sweet. Does anybody else want to share? Public Library in New York, we can host a job fair that highlights companies in these sectors. That's pretty awesome. And it makes it really specific for your local area. So I like where everybody's going. You're using cost effective. So most of these things don't cost any money. and you're connecting people with those resources. Anyone else wanted to share? All right. Thank you all so much for brainstorming with us. So the point of this activity, okay, we've got another one, a college library looking at okay, sorry. College library looking at book recycling and dispenser machines. So it's different ways of sharing books. It sounds like that they're going to do about different careers. So I love the ideas. Thank you all for sharing them because it just enriches the conversations that you can build on things that you already have in your library. Some things that we brainstorm that you can implement easily is, excuse me, is that you can play a role by helping people research and identify specific jobs. And when we do the activities or show the lesson plans a little bit later, we'll talk about helping people identify specific jobs. One of the ways that you can get started is creating partnerships with your local workforce programs. So usually at the county level, they have some kind of workforce. You can invite them into the library, so it's a one place, one stop shop. Government agencies, educational institutions. Maybe it's not your forte, but you can connect with the academic library or institution. Next, we talk about how libraries can connect patrons with vocational training programs. Apprenticeships are on-the-job training. So you might not be the location or have the funding to have the materials on site, but maybe you connect them with the resources that do. You have information sheets or things like that available. Again, someone talked about creating research guides or hosting information sessions where your partners can be available. Next, we talked about offering workshops and training sessions. So bringing people on site so that they can train them. This is really important for especially the soft skills. So libraries already provide computer skills. Maybe people need to know how to use Excel or other specialized software that you can invite trainers into the library to provide those programs. You can leverage free databases such as ONET or paid databases such as LinkedIn for those soft skills that people might need. Libraries can provide direct support for job seekers by including help with cover letters or resume preparation or how to use search engines to find a job, period. In conjunction with all of these things can be tailored to specifically look for green careers or looking for jobs in general. You can host events that give people the opportunity to practice interviewing or networking skills. And last but not least, you can support the development of foundational skills that they might need for the different job markets. So your library might already provide English as a second language or another language skill. How do you get them to know the vocabulary or the words in the field that they're going to go into? So what do those words or terms mean to them? Get them the opportunity to practice those skills or the technical skills they might need for that field. So now that we've explored the growth of green jobs and talked about different ways that you might support or get ideas for those events, we're going to talk about how you might implement them in your library. So we're going to showcase 3 different types of library and how they have implemented some of those resources. So before we showcase those resources or how you've done it, does anyone want to volunteer a partnership that they might be thinking of, like a specific type of partnership? Like, is there an organization that you'd want to share about? Like, based on everything that we've talked about, does anybody want to share out loud? It's okay if you don't want to share out loud, because we're going to share out loud in a moment. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Anne. I'm the one from Clinton Essex Franklin Library System. So we've been trying to, I'm sorry about the typos. I'm trying to multitask here. So anyways, we've been trying to find partners, that for book recycling. So I know it's like, like for jobs, there's a lot of different organizations, for example, our waste facility people have partnered with, we've talked to them, and now we're partnering with colleges. So in general, community partnerships are pretty valuable. And
Definitely.
and those partnerships have jobs, right? So for example, the person that we're partnering with at the college, they received a grant for a book despiner. And we have a problem with recycling our books because it gunks up the recycling machine at the waste facility. So, you have to really, green jobs are everywhere now, so anything can be a green job. That's what I'm getting to. And partnerships are important.
Oh, yes, because I never once would have thought about that. And wouldn't it be great if when they come on site, they actually have the applications available, or you could do it ahead of time. So it's a really great win-win for everybody. And I love that idea. It's something that the library already has to do, and you're making the connection with a potential for greening a job. Love it. Thank you. Did anybody else want to share? Thank you so much, Anne, for sharing that. I never would have thought about that. So thank you. So now we're going to showcase how specific libraries have integrated some partnerships, information resources, and we're going to first look at the academic library. So I'll share that one, and then Margaret will share the others. So this list has a potential book resources that a library could use, and we'll give the presentation at the end. We'll email it out. So you can start out with books specifically about job directories, encyclopedias, industries and associations. I work in an academic library, so we always tell students to check out their industries and associations because they offer scholarships or apprenticeships. So that's our advice to them when we're talking about those physical indexes for our students to use. The other thing is I'm going to showcase under library databases. So I've got 3 different library databases under here and the different resources that are in those library databases. So if your academic library has those databases, and Margaret will go into detail a little bit more about Peterson's and the different things that Peterson's might offer. But specifically, I wanted to showcase Ferguson. Our institution, because of our student population, happens to be the highest user of this database in the nation. This database, we use it primarily for our new student experience class. So every student has to take that class. We've partnered with faculty to revise their assignments. So in their assignments, students have to look up up-to-date information about their career. So this does everything that they need for the assignment. It lets them know what the job outlook is, because it's sometimes for our students surprising that they look into a job and they're like, well, the prediction is that this job won't exist 10 years from now, or that it's on the decline, or something like that. So it's something that we want our students to know going in. And we share that they should be mindful. Maybe they need to move to another state because it's not a rising job here in Florida, but it might be somewhere else. That students might need to know their salary information, depending on their economic circumstances. That's important. What required skills? So we always give the advice during the lesson that some of the skills are soft skills and maybe they don't have that skill now, but how, as they're going through their academic time, can they refine those skills? So let's say you have a job that requires you to do a lot of oral presentations, but you're not taking a speech class, but maybe you can practice presentations in your other classes. So these are the kind of collaborations that you can do at the academic library. And I'm going to showcase partnering with different organizations or departments in the school. So on this page, we talk about, you can just partner with the Career Center, period, the Writing Center, or Tutoring Center. A lot of these different careers might require you to have test prep. So to get into the field. So is there a department in your institution that provides that test preps for students? We have certain databases and resources that we point out for our students. But one of the things that I want to say is collaborating is really important for us. So for our institution, we table a lot. It's a great way to get all the different people or departments in one place. So for us, a lot of times when we table for career fairs, we're actually tabled right next to the Writing Center. The reason is that we invite students and we show them right there. We've got our laptops. We show them how to get into Ferguson so that they can download a Word version of their industries, either the entry level, middle level, or advanced, mostly entry level, the resume and cover letter for their area. And then they can go to the writing center, which is usually at the table right next to us, and they can refine it to personalize it for their actual needs, where they currently are in their field. And then finally, they can go to the writing center, sorry, the career center's table to work on their interview skills, or they can work on their 30-second elevator pitch. So this is all things that they can do in one time, and they just kind of go through the line, if you will, and visit all of these different tables in a short period of time. But that's the example from an academic library using things that we already have.
Okay, I'm a public librarian, but I'm lucky enough to work with the school librarians in my community. So I was able to get a little bit of information from them about the opportunities for school. This is mostly for high schoolers who are, you know, sort of looking to launch their future once they graduate. So one of the things that's really important is the range of information that's available at school libraries, and that's everything from trade book collections. I mean, they have, you know, the very basic what it's like to be a plumber books to outlines in curriculum that go into more detail. And I think school libraries you know, are able to offer that sort of in print and online. Some even offer, you know, audiobooks. So depending on the type of learner you have, they have a lot of different ways to gather that information. Another thing that I think is really fun is that the clubs and extracurricular activities, I can never say that word, that are available at schools, that they invite speakers to come in and talk about various opportunities. I know that the Key Club and the Future Business Leaders of America Club at my local high school have invited the local solar installer to come in and talk about, you know, the various levels of opportunities that are available, as well as the environmental scientists to come in and talk about, you know, what that looks like and what are the different types of careers that someone might think about, and the training. You know, I think that's the next step, especially for high schoolers, is what kind of training that might involve. And then the other one that a colleague in New York State mentioned was the BOCES Virtual Reference Center. I'm not so familiar with that, but it looks like it has a nice connection to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which Nardia and I have both referenced previously. And I think it could be a really great way to explore opportunities. And I think for a school to have that available, it's a way for a librarian to make information available without having to be an expert on it themselves. So I think that's really important. So those are some of the school resources. Next slide, please. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the public library resources, but I should say that a lot of this overlaps with the schools. I mean, we work sort of hand in hand here in Vermont, and I'm sure that's the case elsewhere. So one of the things that has really come to the front is state job assistance. I know in Vermont, there's a lot, the Department of Labor really wants to work hand in hand with libraries to let people know about what what opportunities are out there for people of all ages, but particularly young people. Those are people that Vermont would like to keep in the state, and so they want to offer them good opportunities. So I've just listed a few examples on this slide of resources that are available for Vermonters, but I'd be curious to know from any of you. I imagine there's similar resources available in your place, your state, or region as well. So there is a dedicated Vermont Green Jobs page, and it lists all, I mean, and again, looking at that page, I was so amazed at the range of types of jobs that are available. And there's a conservation job board as well. So that's more focused on the specific niche of conservation. But again, you know, forestry, ecology, education, consulting. So I think depending on, you know, where the person you're helping is headed, there's a lot of opportunities. And then one really interesting document was the recent issue of Vermont's Most Promising Jobs. And that I think it's something we've printed out here at our library so that we can just, it's, as it says, it's sort of a conversation starter, and it gets people who might not have as much of an idea of what they're looking for thinking about possibilities, and possibilities that have potential. And I think that is really important. And then one that I didn't get a chance to add into the slide, but I just found out today, here in Vermont, is the Vermont Economic Development Authority. And they've just recently announced a Greenway partnership where they're going to really be working hard to promote green jobs specific to solar installation and HVAC work. And I think that, you know, the really highlighting those as possibilities for people looking for work and looking for new career opportunities. Next slide, please. So looking at resources more specific to a library, we're a very small library, and our ability to keep sort of print materials that are up to date in our collection is difficult, but we are very grateful to have access to a really nice collection of online resources, which can help with everything from interview training, resume writing. So right as you're getting started in your job search and having those first steps of meeting with possible companies and opportunities, to, you know, maybe once you've decided, or the person you're helping has decided what field they're interested in going to, exam preparation and certification exam preparation. I should also add that for small and rural libraries, having access to interlibrary loan is important for this too, because it also makes materials available, again, that we might not be able to keep in our collection, but we'd like to make available to people who need them. Next slide, please. So just some ideas of things, some overlap again, but I think that we have Vermont Works for Women here. We have the Vermont Community Foundation. We have a lot of local businesses that are more than willing to come in and talk to people about the potential and possibility in their field for a range of interests and abilities. And some of them can even help people with building a resume that's specific to a certain field. And, you know, how do you start that first conversation if you're interested in a program? How do you have an interview? And then always, how do you keep yourself calm while you're going through all of this? And then some of the resources that we felt lucky enough to have available here, we have the career and test prep, the Peterson's Guide. I think it's pretty similar to what Nardia referenced for academic libraries, but I think it's really great that it kind of drills down to very specific, again, as the previous slide referenced, you know, that if you're a journeyman plumber and you want to take that next exam, you can get the resources you need from the Petersons at your local public library. And we have an account with the Udemy online courses through another Gale offering, and they have really comprehensive resume writing courses. They have speech and presentation courses. And then I think an important part too is that libraries offer computers and printer access. So if you need to work on a resume or print out a cover letter to send in, we make those available. And libraries also create a space if you need, if you're having an online interview or some kind of telecommuting meeting, the space is available for you to do that as well. So, again, as I mentioned, just to reinforce this, for those who have access to the Udemy platform, resume assistance and interview training. And next slide. If you're have access to the Peterson's guides, which I think are, so comprehensive and universal, but again, I have a friend whose son is an electrician and he's working his way up the ladder, and having access to this online information was critical for him. It really made a big difference. Likewise, I know someone whose daughter is training to be a social worker, and she was able to get access to the certification information that she needed to get prepared for her certification exam. I think that's it.
And we're going to have opportunity to ask questions at the end that are off the recording, but what we wanted to emphasize is we talked about the fact that green jobs are growing. We talked about, or we brainstormed different ways you can introduce it, and we identified specific resources that some of the institutions that we've talked to have used. What we're going to showcase now is we're going to talk about 3 different types of microprogramming. So the activities that we'll talk about are about 5, they can be anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes long, depending on the group of people you have. And the great thing about all of them that we talk about next is you can partner them all together. Or you can use one of them and have your community partner there to enhance the activity. So the first one that I'm showcasing is the first resource that we talked about earlier in the presentation, that Career One Stop, those 200 green jobs. In this activity, you can get participants to get a hands-on opportunity to explore emerging sectors on their own. Either you can choose a specific industry, or you can help them as they explore other other industries. I always recommend with an example that's local, because it gives some people something solid that they can identify with, that they can think about getting a job in at the local. But again, you can have them explore all of them. In this particular lesson, it asks for participants to determine if there's a license or certificate needed. Why that's important is that a lot of people, especially if they're currently in school or thinking about going to school, is they will finish their degree and then think about taking the licensing later. So the advice that we always give our students is in their last or second to last semester, they should be taking their licensing exam while everything's still fresh in their mind. And the other thing is that if a certificate is required, is it required in your state? So they can click on the links, and it's a pretty robust site. They'll tell you which states will need it. If you'll need a degree on top of the certification, because sometimes that is a thing. And it will tell you the requirements if a license is needed. So it's a very simple activity, but it's something they should know going in before applying for the job. You can, again, partner this with any of the other activities that we have later. So as it says, we ask them to write down 2 occupations that they're interested in after going through all of those things. And now if they have those 2, they can do one of the next ones that we have. So for this activity, it's using the Bureau of Labor and Statistics Occupational Outlook Handbook. It's very similar to Ferguson, the way Valencia uses Ferguson. So this is a free resource that is available online. We always ask our students to compare 2 different careers, because by the time they're done with their training or education, they might need to shift. The example that I always give people is someone that I encountered who was thinking about nursing, but didn't realize they were claustrophobic and didn't like having masks on their face and things like that. So the PPE, I forget what PPE stands for, but the protective suits that they need to have on. Well, that's something to know, but if you had explored another career, you realize, and that's one of the reasons I love Occupational Outlook Handbook, I use it personally, Because I realized I didn't want to actually be an anthropologist and work in the field and did my own latrine. So I had to pivot and decide, okay, what do these skill sets match up with in another degree? So it's a really great way of letting people know about what their work environment is going to be like, because sometimes they had this dream from they were 10, but now let's actually look at what your work environment is like. Are you going to be outdoors a lot, but you hate the outdoors? So I know it seems basic, but it gives people an opportunity. I love their job outlook because they give an estimate of whether or not they predict the job is going to decrease or increase, and it gives it over a 15-year estimate. It also gives you state data on similar occupations. I like letting students know that the other thing when I work with students, and again, you'd be working with adults if you're in a public library, but is to think about the economics of the situation. What's the entry level salary? A lot of people, they hear about the top level salary or the median salary, but you need to know what the entry level salary is. If economics are important for your household, maybe you have to do a job in between. So what's a low level job that will get you there? So like for example, if you want to be a dentist and that's going to take you 8 to 10 years of school, maybe you become a dental hygienist first, because that's 2 years you can work and go to school partially or when, you know, by the time that you have to do your residency or something like that, you can take time off. So those are some things that you can get people to think about. And last but not least, ONET. ONET is really great. It's done it's sponsored by the U.S. Department of Labor, and it provides a lot of detailed job descriptions. One of the fun ways my institution uses it to search is based on people's interest inventory. So the students take an interest inventory and they can search based on what they're interested in. Again, this is for people who are a little bit younger. For someone who's a little bit older, when I've had those folks in my class, I say, I know your interest inventory said one thing, but you're practical. So let's look at the hot jobs. So I love their hot jobs section because the hot jobs are the jobs that are in high demand. So they can quickly browse by the region what the hot jobs is. And the other piece I love about it when you're looking at the detail list of the different jobs is they tell you what industries hire people in that job. And the way that I always tell people, you'll always be surprised, because sometimes an industry that you would never think of hires someone with that degree. So the example I usually give is teaching. Because funny enough, models, industries, that modeling industry, because there's always someone out there demoing something. So that's another field for someone with a teaching degree to go in. So you can combine all these different resources, and when you get the slides, you can see different things you can ask them to do as you go through these lesson plans. And I just want to say thank you for coming to today's session. And for those of you who are out there listening to a recording, think about different ways that you can brainstorm with everyone.
Yes.
And we're going to stop. Sorry, go ahead.
No, just say thank you. That's all. And thanks, Nardia, for putting it all together so well.
And thank you everybody for attending. Good luck with the recording and thinking about how you can meet your community. We're going to stop the recording so that the attendees can ask their questions.